Hi, I'm Clarice and I'm just out on the river today enjoying the last vestiges of our South African summer, and I thought this might be a good time for me to talk to you about what I keep in my bag, my everyday outdoor bag, and the gear that I carry on me and the things that I won't leave the house without. Now, if you had a look at the South African news recently, you'll have noticed that on a farm in Bonnievale, a whole bunch of crocodiles escaped and they made their way into the Breede River. Unfortunately, some of them have been euthanized because that's what the authorities decided was the best course of action. But a lot of them have actually been returned. I believe 36 crocodiles have been returned to the farm that they escaped from. Lucky for us, no crocodiles on this river today, or at least I don't think so. So we can cast off here and then have a talk about everyday carry gear. When I think about everyday carry gear, the first thing that comes to mind is what is on my person. The things that I grab and attach to my belt or put in my pockets or put on my head, those are the things that come to mind first. And then of course the things that I put into my bag, the gear and the equipment that I carry on my back in my backpack. Now take note, the backpack that I'm going to go through today is not a adventure into the mountain backpack. It's not a long-term outdoor stay kind of bag. It's just my grab and go for the day bag. And I have a really modular system about what I take with me gear wise, because depending on where I go or what environment I'm going to enter into, I will pack gear for that specific outdoor trip. If I'm going to be out in the woods or I'm going to be where there's no cell phone reception, I'll most certainly take navigational gear and I'll most certainly take a medical kit and I'll take a shelter system. But for the purpose of today's just out on the river, I'm going to share less items. Very rarely do I leave the house without checking the weather. I don't think that the Western Cape is the only place where we joke about having 4 seasons in one day. And the weather can change very easily here. So to give you an idea, this morning this river was misted over. It looked like it was actually going to rain today, and now we've got beautiful sunshine and hardly any wind. So it is important for me to plan for weather and for circumstances. But regardless, I have a couple of set items that I will always have on me irrespective of where I'm going. So it doesn't matter if I'm running errands, or if I am out on the river, or if I'm out in the ocean, or if I'm in the mountains or running around in the bush, or if I've gone horse riding. Doesn't matter where I go, I'm always going to have those items on me. And the first of those would be my watch. Now this is an inexpensive watch. I think I paid 80 South African Rand for it in 2014. You go do the maths about how little that is. This is cheap as chips, but it is actually relatively waterproof. Well, it says 5 atmosphere water resistant, so that'll be fine, you know, for just dunking it in the water. And so I have actually on occasion accidentally washed it. Another item that I always have on me is my belt, and with my belt comes my knife. And your belt can actually be used in other ways other than keeping your clothes in place. You can use it to help you build a shelter, or you can use your belt to help you to splint a limb if you have an injury, or it can simply be used to help you climb a tree. But a belt is really a necessary thing, and our women's clothes don't always have belt loops. But I try to always choose my clothing in such a way that if I'm going out into the wilderness, I will always have a belt that I can wear, even if it is a soft belt, because some of our clothes are made with those soft belts that you just tie, and that's perfectly fine as well. Now I've said with my belt comes my knife, and I do, when I go out into the bush, I do always carry a knife on my belt. In South Africa, we can carry a knife on our belt or on our person, provided that we can show that it is for recreational or for work purposes. Yeah, and that's really so debatable. I mean, it's so easy to say, oh, but I'm going into the bush. And usually if I'm carrying a knife on my belt, then I am going into the bush, or I've just come out of the bush. I'll always still try and conceal it a bit. That's why I like the Mueller knife that I'll show you shortly. And it's sort of a small knife that I can conceal easily. Today, because I'm out on the water, I'm carrying a different knife from the one that I usually carry. And this is a Mora Companion. And I like that it's got a plastic sheath. That's why it's on my belt today. So there you go, Mora Companion. This is a really good carry-on bushcraft knife for everyday bushcraft purposes. This is a 3/4 tang, if I'm not mistaken, and it's around about, it's a little bit longer than my Mueller knife. I think the Mueller is 3.5 inches and this should be around 4. And then it's got the Scandi grind. It doesn't have a 90-degree spine, but you can easily ask a knife maker to put that on for you if you don't know how to file a 90-degree spine onto it. Really great knife, all-purpose knife, and then it clips into its sheath quite nicely, and that's not going to fall out, and that just clips onto your belt, so easy to attach and to remove again. There it is, the Mora Companion. Right, now we get to what is in my actual bag, and I think a lot of you have wanted to know what it is that I carry in the bag. Now, this is the bag that I carry most of the time when I'm out in the bush. It is actually a pet carrier, and I bought it thinking, yeah, I'll keep it for the cat to go to the vet, or just in case there's an emergency and I need to move her around. This is nice and comfortable for her to get into, but I ended up carrying it around most of the time in the bush by myself. So yeah, I don't know if Kitty maybe needs a different carrier now. So I like this bag because it is relatively water resistant and it's got this plasticky sort of surface. And most of the items that I am talking about here are on the Live Ready website. You can go and view them on the gear tab. If you have a look under the different tabs that there is a gear tab. So this is the Papazau pet carrier. Don't really know how you pronounce it, but anyway. And what I do like about it is all of this, the zips are sealed, so they're sort of like waterproof zips that are sealed, and it's nice and roomy. It's got a chest strap. I don't know if you can see that over there. Chest strap. And that just distributes the weight nicely over your shoulders, so you're not pulled backwards, and it makes it a little bit more ergonomic to carry a relatively heavy bag into the bush. Just looking at what is attached to this bag, I have got a carabiner here, and it just sits on here, and I mean, like today I just clip it onto the back of the kayak here, just make sure that it doesn't slide off the side if I'm launching or pulling the kayak out of the water, and I can attach anything else that I want to that, anything that's loose or that I just need to clear my hands, make some space for something else in my hands. I can attach things together, hang it up if I need to, or just stow it out of the way. Okay, so that is just looking at my bag. Then the first compartment that I'm going to have a look at is the top compartment. Now this is actually something that I store things in, birds, store things in that I need to reach easily. And I can actually open it behind my back here and just grab for things that I'm looking for. And we call that stereognosis, is the ability to feel what an object is and to identify it by touch without seeing it or hearing it. And women are very good at that because we constantly have a hand somewhere in our bag trying to get that exact lipstick color. But anyways, so having said that, it's also really important to know where your things are in your bag, which items you're going to find, which compartments, so that if you're looking for them in a hurry and you really need to find something quickly, that you can actually identify just by touch. So if your hands are tied behind your back and you're blindfolded, you must know where your knife is in your bag, and you must know how to find the objects that you're looking for, even if it's dark. Okay, so what I've brought along now is the Mueller knife that I mentioned earlier, and the reason I brought it along is actually just for show and tell. Because this is probably the knife that you'll see me carry on my belt more often. I do like carrying this on my belt because it's a little bit shorter than the companion. Just to show you how they compare in length in their sheaths. So you can see the companion is actually going to sit quite a bit lower on my person, and it's going to stick out from my clothes. Now, even if I wear a jacket or I wear quite a long shirt and I cover the knife, you still sometimes can see that little end sticking out when I'm bending over picking something up or so. So it does show every now and then, and that's okay. It's not the end of the world. But this one is going to show a lot more. So when I'm out and about in the bush, I have no problem wearing this on my belt. If I am going to end up running an errand somewhere after I've come out of the mountains or off the river, this one is better for me to wear on my belt. It's a little bit easier to conceal. To talk about the Muela knife, I have mentioned it in my bug out bag video. You can go and check that out. It is on the Live Ready YouTube channel. This one is a hunting style knife, whereas the companion is a puko style knife, and the hunting style knife just has a slightly different shape and it's got a hollow grind. So if I need to be chopping wood or chopping a branch off of a tree, I'm going to rather use the companion. The reason why is the Muela's hollow grind makes it a little bit more likely to break if I'm going to billet it into a piece of wood. What is nice about it is it's got this little thumb grip here at the top, and that gives me nice feedback, and I can feel where the blade is. Once again, we go back to stereognosis, and yeah, and it fits into my hand really nicely, which I also like about it. So it's kind of a small, nice little knife just to have around. The other thing about the hollow grind is that it's easier to do little carving duties, making tent pegs and things like that with a hollow grind in the knife, because it provides, it gives less resistance on the wood when you are slicing through the wood because of that hollow grind. Okay, to give you a little close-up of this one, that is the Muela Bison, and you can see that hollow grind. It's almost like a little Maui style shaped knife. Okay, this is a full tang knife. It's a great knife. It works for just about everything, and this I also actually carry in my handbag most of the times. So if I'm out and about just running errands, I might pop it into my bag rather than pop it onto my belt. So that is Muela Bison. It's got a nice sheath there as well. Looks really nice on. The next thing to come out of my bag of tricks, also from the top pocket, just looking at what I reach for quickly and easily, is safety pins that I've got over here. I don't know if I'd actually be able to undo that behind my head, but it's probably better to put the bag down and take it out. This is quite a big one, and I like to keep them all attached to one another so I can find them easily. And I've done a video on field compass navigation and how you can magnetize a needle to make a field compass and float a needle on a bit of water in order to tell direction. Go and check that video out as well, and you can do that with a safety pin as well. You don't need a sewing needle for it. In fact, you can use a bobby pin, which I'm sure I'll have in here as well. And for the men out there who don't know what bobby pins are, they are women's hairpins, and you can also magnetize these. I scratched the paint off a bit, and it's got these funny little bobbins at the top, but anyway, you can use that to make a needle. You can use that to make a compass needle. Plenty of things that can be magnetized. These are just temporary magnets. They don't stay magnetized, so if you are going to reuse it at another point, just check that it is still magnetized, and you can do that by just disturbing it with your knife. Okay, other things in here: bit of lip balm, a hair tie, and a ferro rod. This was previously attached to my Swiss Army knife, and I have recently taken it off because the Swiss Army knife, or the Victorinox knife, is now in my bug out bag, and there is two other ferro rods in there, so this one now lives in my day-to-day bag. Like I said, I've got a modular system with everyday carry items, and I will chop and change and decide what I take with me. Other little carry items, these are just teeny little cable ties. Should be some more in here. No, must have used them, have to replenish them. Remember to replenish the stuff that you use from your bag, because we can tend to forget that, and then when you're looking for it, you've used all of them and there's no more. So just tiny little cable ties, and that concludes the top of the bag. If I'm going out to sea, I will grab a different bag. I've actually got, like, you can call it a beach bag if you want to, but it has my diving knife in it and some fins, and it's usually got the net that's actually now tied to the back of the kayak here, usually lives in that bag. So I'll grab those things and make up a bag depending on what I need, but on principle I'll always have a knife. I will always have a ferro rod if I'm going out into the wilderness, and I will always have a water or a canteen that I can contain water in and boil water if I need to. Then on top of that, because I actually get cold quite quickly, I usually carry some or the other warm thing, a windbreaker or something like that, but I never leave the house without checking the weather. So I usually know if the weather is going to be bad if I'm going to be out and about. And then I'll take a warmer jacket or a waterproof jacket depending on what I think is going to happen out there. Okay, so there's a jacket. Now, one thing I didn't mention earlier that is usually on my person is a pair of sunglasses, and they can be good for eye protection, especially if the weather turns bad, or it's stormy or really windy, or there's a dust storm that gets blown up, or you're on the beach and suddenly the wind blows sand all over the place. Having a bit of eye protection is actually a good thing. And these ones, these are Maui gem sunglasses. So polarized is great because it sort of saves your eyes from the glare, but pilots, for example, won't wear polarized sunglasses because it removes some of the detail from their environment, especially paragliders or hang gliders. They want to see that reflection off of power lines and off of trees and off of the environment around them. So if you're going to be out and about and you're choosing a set of sunglasses, just keep that in mind. In this bag, because I'm going to be out on the water, but because I don't intend to swim, I have got a waterproof bag in here, and often I will carry a waterproof bag with me if I think the weather is going to be bad. You'll recall from my bag out bag video that there is one that lives in my bag out bag, and it keeps all of my documents safe in there. And this one over here is a slightly sturdier, tougher kind of material, but it's also heavier. And what I've got in here are just all of my keep dry possessions, things like keys, and a cell phone. Try and put that back, and tissues. The reason why I carry tissues is not only so I can blow my nose, but it is also because they make great tinder. If your environment is wet and you suddenly find that you need to make a fire for whatever reason, and you can't find dry tinder, or you're really struggling to start a fire, tissues are great for that. If you are using the solo component of your fire kit to start a fire, you're using a magnifying glass or a lens of some sort to start a fire, tissues make great tinder because they are usually bone dry, provided that you keep them dry. Okay, that's the dry bag. Then we get to my water bottle. Now this is also interchangeable with another one that I carry. It is not the same, it does not have a pocket, the other one doesn't have a pocket or a sheath like this, and it does not have the cup component that this one has. So this is nice if you need to boil water or cook or collect something or dig a hole, so that's very useful to have. The other water bottle that I have is also aluminium. It's also got a plastic lid, but it is elongated. It's sort of a bit more cylindrical and doesn't have the cup component. I don't actually use that one more often, but for running around in the bush, this is nice. And just an update on my gear repairs video. I still haven't put a button on this, but I have looked at buttons, so I'm making progress. Okay, so but it's still repaired. I mean, it's still holding up. That's actually doing quite well. Yeah, that's doing very well. Okay, need to get a button. What else is in here? duct tape. This is a camo duct tape. Now, as much as I love carabiners, I really hate sticky things. I've got a pet peeve for sticky things, so I don't like to use duct tape very often, because I don't like having to clean mucky, sticky glue from tape off of anything. But I did recently need to use this, so that's why it's living in this bag now, and it was very handy, I must admit. And other things in my bag include a Ziploc bag. You get oven bags that can handle up to 200 degrees heat, and you know, stuff that you cook in, that you put in the oven. So go and rummage around in the kitchen and see if your wife or your girlfriend or your mother has an oven bag, and those are actually really great to keep as well, because if you don't have something to boil water in, you can try the oven bag. Don't put it directly on the flame. Flames are much hotter than 200 degrees, so suspend it and then try and find a way that you can spread your coals around it so it gets more heat from all around, but not too much direct heat. Now, water boils at 100 degrees Celsius, so you should have plenty of room to boil water in an oven bag that can handle 200 degrees Celsius. I'm pretty sure there's some rope in here too. Ah, there it is. See, you need to know what's in your bag. There we go, some rope. Now, this is not paracord. It's nothing fancy. It's actually something that I don't feel sorry for, so I don't mind cutting this up into little pieces and tying a little noose on the oar so I don't drop my oar, or if I drop my oar, that I don't lose it. And I can cut this up into 10 little pieces. It's cheap as chips to replace, so I don't feel sorry for it, and there's a carabiner on it as well. On the point of carabiners, here's one. Here's one. The anchor is tied to a carabiner. On my keys, my car keys, there's a carabiner. Where else is there a carabiner? Here's a carabiner. I really love carabiners. Now, whenever I go out, as much as I keep a jacket, which is now wet, as much as I keep a jacket, I will also always keep a scarf or a buff or something to that end and means, or maybe a hat, anything that I can cover my face or my neck with. Every person is going to find that they have different things that are important to them, and you shouldn't let anybody tell you what to keep in your bag, your everyday bag. Your gear is completely up to you. It's really a personal decision, and your circumstances and the things that you have to work through in your day are going to differ from everybody else. So here's a bit of wisdom. Listen to all the advice out there. Listen to what everybody has to say about carrying stuff on you, and then decide what you want to keep on you. Decide what is important to you and what is going to serve you the best. Like, let's see one here. Now, there's a side pocket in here. Here's something out of Africa for you. A keti, not a slingshot, because this is Africa, so we call it a keti. And some people will say that they'd rather take playing cards to keep themselves busy with, but this is great fun actually. You might find it interesting to note that all of the items in my bag can double as items to be used in a medical emergency. For example, a buff and 2 carabiners can make a tourniquet. The belt that you wear on you can be used to make a splint if you have to support an injured limb. A hot knife cuts and cauterizes. With your watch you can time heart rate, respiratory rate, compressions in CPR and CPR duration. With duct tape and a bit of tissue you can make a rudimentary bandage or dress a wound, and with duct tape and your plastic bag you can make a triangular dressing for a penetrating chest wound that will ensure that air only is allowed out and not allowed back into the chest wound. Safety pins help to keep dressings in place. With my jacket I can make a sling, and so on and so forth. You can think up some ideas of how to use your items in your bag in a medical emergency. Now, that does not replace a first aid kit, but it will help you if you happen to not have a first aid kit on you, or if you run out of supplies to use in your first aid kit. Last but not least, on a beautiful day like this, I have one more item in my bag that I bring along with me. And if, like me, you enjoy a cold one, Please remember, anything that you carry into the wilderness, carry it back out with you again. That applies to banana peels and orange peels and wrappers and anything that you've brought with you. You can carry it out if you've carried it in. Let's keep our environment clean. Remember to comment down below where you're watching from. I really like to hear from you guys. And until the next time, cheers.